Dwayne Johnson was known for his charisma, larger-than-life personality, and unwavering generosity. Despite his global fame, he often made time to connect with people on a personal level. One sunny afternoon, as he stepped out of his car near a luxury hotel, he noticed a commotion at the entrance. A well-dressed businessman was loudly berating someone huddled on the steps. A homeless man, visibly tired and clutching a small bundle of belongings. The businessman's voice rang out sharply. "You can't just sit here. This isn't some park bench. Move along before I call security." The homeless man looked up, his eyes reflecting a mix of weariness and quiet defiance. Dwayne paused, observing the interaction. He could see the discomfort in the faces of nearby hotel staff and guests, most of whom avoided intervening. Something about the scene didn't sit right with him. The businessman continued his tirade, his words growing crueler. "People like you are the reason decent folks can't enjoy places like this. You're lazy, living off others' hard work." Before the man could go any further, Dwayne stepped forward, his towering presence immediately drawing attention. His deep, calm voice broke through the noise. "Is there a problem here?" The businessman turned, startled. For a moment, he was speechless, recognizing Dwayne Johnson. Then, regaining his composure, he replied, "Mr. Johnson, I didn't expect to see you here. I was just dealing with this situation." Dwayne's gaze shifted to the homeless man, who was now looking down, his shoulders hunched as if to make himself smaller. Dwayne crouched slightly to meet the man's eye. "Hey, brother," he said gently. "What's your name?" The man hesitated before answering. "David." "Nice to meet you, David," Dwayne said, offering a warm smile. "You doing okay?" David nodded faintly but didn't speak. The businessman, growing impatient, interjected. "He's trespassing, Mr. Johnson. We have to maintain standards." Dwayne straightened up, his expression hardening. "Standards, huh? Let me ask you something. Does treating people like this meet your standards?" The businessman stammered, caught off guard. "I didn't mean any disrespect, but we can't let things like this slide." Dwayne shook his head. "Respect isn't about appearances or bank accounts. It's about how we treat people, especially those who need kindness the most." Dwayne turned back to David. "You look like you've been through a lot. Can I get you something to eat? Maybe some water?" David nodded, his eyes welling up. That would be nice." "Thank you," Dwayne signaled to a nearby staff member and ordered a meal and some fresh water for David. As they waited, he sat down on the steps beside him, ignoring the surprised stares of onlookers. "What's your story, David?" David hesitated before opening up. He explained how he had lost his job during the pandemic, followed by his home when he couldn't keep up with rent. He'd been living on the streets for months, struggling to find work and barely scraping by. "I used to have a life," David said, his voice cracking. "But now I'm just trying to survive." Dwayne listened intently, nodding as David spoke. When the food arrived, he handed it to David, who accepted it with shaking hands. "Thanks," David whispered. As David ate, the businessman, now visibly uncomfortable, tried to excuse himself. "I didn't mean to interrupt your day, Mr. Johnson. I'll be going now." Dwayne stopped him with a raised hand. "Hold up. Before you go, maybe you should take a minute to think about how you handled this. Treating someone with dignity doesn't cost a thing." The businessman flushed but said nothing, quickly retreating into the hotel. After ensuring David was comfortable, Dwayne made a few phone calls. Within an hour, he had arranged for David to stay at a nearby shelter that offered job placement assistance. He handed David a card with his assistant's contact information. "Call this number tomorrow," he said. "We'll figure out a way to help you get back on your feet." David stared at the card, disbelief and gratitude flooding his expression. "Why would you do this for me?" Dwayne smiled. "Because we all need a little help sometimes, and because I believe in you." David's voice cracked as he replied, "You don't know what this means to me. Thank you, truly." News of the incident spread quickly, with witnesses sharing the story on social media. The businessman's behavior was widely criticized, while Dwayne's actions earned praise for their humanity. Inspired by the story, others in the community began organizing efforts to support the homeless, proving that one moment of compassion could create ripples far beyond its origin. But for David, it wasn't just a meal or a kind word. It was a second chance, a reminder that he wasn't invisible, and that even in the darkest times there were still people willing to help. In the weeks that followed, David began attending workshops and interviews arranged through the shelter. With each step, he grew stronger, regaining the confidence he'd lost over the years. One day, he found himself employed again, working in a small hardware store where he was known for his hard work and kind demeanor. Months later, while working a shift, David looked up to see Dwayne walking into the store. For a moment, he was speechless. Then a wide smile spread across his face. "Mr. Johnson," he said, stepping out from behind the counter. "I didn't think I'd see you again." Dwayne grinned and extended a hand. "I just wanted to check in on you, David. Looks like you're doing well." David nodded, emotion welling up. "Better than I ever thought possible. Thanks to you." Dwayne shook his head. "You did the work, man. I just gave you a little push." As they spoke, other customers in the store began to recognize Dwayne, but he waved them off, focusing entirely on David. Before leaving, he left his personal number with the store manager. "If David ever needs anything, you call me," he said. David's story became a beacon of hope in the community, reminding people that small acts of kindness could spark extraordinary change. And for Dwayne, it was another moment that reaffirmed his belief in humanity's capacity for goodness. Sometimes, all it took was one person to stand up and make a difference. Later, David was invited to share his story at a local community event. Nervously standing in front of a small crowd, he recounted the day his life began to change. "I thought I was invisible," he said, his voice steadying as he spoke. "But one person saw me, treated me like I mattered, and gave me a chance to stand again." As he spoke, Dwayne watched quietly from the back of the room, pride shining in his eyes. David's journey had come full circle, and now he was inspiring others to believe in second chances. If you like the story, please like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to share with your friends who need it. See you in the next video. Bye.